Good morning, Neil. Oh, what appears to be the problem? Are you struggling to find an ITX motherboard for your Ryzen 1700X? Am I right? Am I right? Yeah? Alright, then let's go online. Whoa, hold on there. Didn't you want to check the AB350 before you click buy on that X370? I mean, because it's more expensive doesn't always mean it's the best for the price. Now do some research, and when you're done, get back to these good people about what you find. Alright, see you later, Neil. To make it easy for everybody and myself to see what the differences between the AB350 and the X370 motherboards are, I actually made this cascading screenshot of both the product pages on ASRock's site. And it makes it a lot easier, especially since there are just a very few items that are different between the two. And as the holiday season is approaching, hopefully this will make it very easy to see what those differences are, because a lot of people have mentioned there's basically no differences, and that's true. So anyways, as we come up to the top here, it's been a little bit since I actually captured these images. Since that time, there has been some awards added onto the AB350, and there might be a few different things as well, but in terms of specifications, unless they add something else new that I didn't know about, everything should be the same. So when you look at both the motherboards up here up top, there is nothing different. And yeah, I know I'm zooming out pretty much to the fullest extent, but there is nothing different except on each motherboard they have their name respectively. Then over here we see the antenna, and that is the biggest difference between these two motherboards, and I'll actually go into specifications and show you why. So as we kind of start scrolling down here, you can see the chipset's different. Hopefully you knew that already. And also you hopefully know that people are not perfect like myself, and we make little mistakes like that. So anyways, here is the biggest difference between the two motherboards. With the AB350 on the left, it says supports high-speed wireless connections up to 433 megabits per second, while on the X370 it says it supports high-speed wireless connections up to 867 megabits per second. Too bad it's not 68, or else, I mean, that might be a deal breaker. I'm just kidding. And it has two antennas to support 2 transmit by 2 receive diversity technology. So you are getting better Wi-Fi, and the accessories down here indicate the differences stated up above. So if that is important to you, to have a better Wi-Fi connection and you have that speed of internet that you can actually utilize that difference right there, then the X370 motherboard will be the better option for you in that regard. But if you just want all the awesome features that are on the X370 for the ITX form factor, but you don't really care about the Wi-Fi, you're going to be plugging it into the Ethernet directly into the router modem, then you should be absolutely fine. So anyways, here are the differences, and we'll move on to the review now. What more can I say about this motherboard? This motherboard is amazing. It's a beast in a small package. So some of the pros and the cons I'm going to actually be addressing here. A little review. I do like this motherboard. There are some aspects I wish they would change, but that's my opinion. And not only that, but for the price you're getting it for, especially nowadays, where on Newegg I saw after rebate and with their sale going on, you can get it for about $80, which is half the price of the X370 motherboard. So anyways, here are some of the pros and some of the cons a little bit later. So some of the pros are, this motherboard has an M.2 slot on the back side of it, which supports NVMe SSDs. I actually haven't used it yet, but I'm sure potential of it is great. And just my experience with NVMe SSDs is this will just only make the motherboard and the system overall faster. Another feature is it has RGB headers. It actually has 3 of them on the motherboard. So if you like RGB, you have the capability of messing around and adjusting RGB a little bit, especially in ITX form factor, where you're not going to have a lot to show off. That is really nice to be able to have 3 of them to be able to work with. My case right here is, well, it's not RGB capable as much. Like, I mean, yeah, I could have some light show through where the fans are, but needless to say, I don't want to do that. But you, if you want to, in your ITX case that has nice tempered glass or something, by all means, go have fun. This motherboard also comes with onboard Wi-Fi with 2 included antennas, and as stated previously in comparing the differences, it can go up to about 430 megabits per second if you have that type of internet speed already. Another nice feature about this motherboard is it has a USB Type-C port, which is great. It's thinking about the future, because a lot of things are starting to move towards the Type-C format because of just its universal capabilities, and I give my seal of approval to that, because that's awesome. That's great, and it's going to be very important in the future to be able to have that. So it only has one, and it's in USB 3.0. So this is kind of my first con with that. It's just a little picky right there. It would be nice to have had it in 3.1 capabilities, but you know, 3.0 is good. It's not great, but it's good. It's better than 2.0, so cross our fingers there. As a little honorable mention, this motherboard has 5.1 and 7.1 surround sound capabilities, which is nice as not all motherboards of this price range include that. Another positive, another pro of this motherboard is the BIOS. Here is the BIOS. It's amazing and it's simple. So up here you can see the overclock tweaker, and it's so easy to configure things. Started at the bottom there, sorry about that. But at the top right here you can do the CPU configuration. It's super easy. You set it to manual, and then there you go. You can update the frequency and the voltage, and you're good to go. In terms of the RAM, if you want to update that, if you want to overclock that, just come down here. I have a profile already saved, but super easy. You can actually adjust it to whatever your RAM can do, and super easy there. It's already set up for you to set up the RAM really easily and go from there. So if you want to overclock your RAM or your CPU, that's the way to do it. And if you want to save it, you can do it down here. Really great and really easy to do. Advanced, it has just all these different options. It has the tools where you have the RGB LED functionality right there. You can separate drivers and flash your motherboard. The monitoring of the fan speed as well as the temperatures within your CPU, and yeah, it's just a lot of information, very easy to read, very easy to use. And if you really don't want anybody messing around with it, you can actually set up a password to prevent people from messing around with your settings, the boot options, and then of course the exit. So anyways, very awesome BIOS right here, and one of the reasons why I like this motherboard. Okay, so in addition to the BIOS, as I just showed you there, this motherboard can overclock its CPU and its RAM, which is great. But segueing into some of the cons with this, is kind of a juggling act, because it's kind of a pro, it's kind of a con. You can overclock this, but because of the limitation on the power chokes, you cannot overclock it to the capabilities of which you could with like ATX motherboard or micro ATX motherboard or any of those variants, because they can only put so much on an ITX case. And I'll actually reference you to Tech Yes City, who kind of explains that a little bit further. But needless to say, for me, myself, I was only able to get my 1700X Ryzen CPU up to 3.8 gigahertz in a steady format. After that, 3.9 crashed after trying to do heavy loads on it, and I'm sure anything above that probably wouldn't boot properly. So might need a little bit more explaining on my part to see if I can actually get to 3.9, maybe even further, but for the time being, 3.8 is still better than 3.4 if I want it. So another con to this motherboard, I would have to say, is no LED troubleshooting lights on the motherboard. That is kind of a nitpicky one, but I am used to that with other motherboards in the past, where if you didn't seat the CPU right, or if you didn't put in your RAM all the way, it notified you with the USB lights, even in ITX motherboards in the past I've used. In this case, for me, when I was doing my computer build, you can see that up in the cards up there, it took me a while because I accidentally didn't push in one of my RAM pieces all the way. So as a result, it wasn't booting, it wasn't doing this and that, and I was stressing out, I was sweating bullets because I'm like, what is wrong? So I had to like take apart a lot more, and I had to do a lot more debugging in order to figure out what was wrong with my build. So in conclusion, this motherboard is amazing in my opinion. I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and because it has a lot of the capabilities that you may need, and it has a few things that you may want as well. It's not perfect with everything, but it still gets the job done, and it gets the job done well. Especially for the price for the ITX motherboard. Right now on Newegg, if you were to purchase it and send in your rebate, you could get it for $80, which is half the price of the X370 at $159.99. That is a great deal. A great deal for a motherboard that is almost identical to the X370. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video about me talking about the AB350. If you have, feel free to give this episode a thumbs up if you feel it's deserving. And if you like the way this channel is going, with only a few videos on it, there will be more to come. Feel free to subscribe. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys for watching. And this is Neil signing out.